Good morning, all. Let's stand up for the prayers, please.
गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णू गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. विघ्नेशानमुनी गुरुसस्मरुनी लक्ष्मीस आवाहिले. आम्ही गुंतवणूकशास्त्र शिकण्या हे सत्र आरंभिले. केव्हा स्थावर आणि जंगम कधी कोठे किती गुंतवू. चर्चा मंथन तज्ञ बोध मिळता हे प्रश्नही सोडवू. ठेवी भाग सुवर्ण पोस्ट अथवा रोखे तसे फंडते. वृद्धी भांडवली मिळो कर नको पर्याय हो कोणते. कोठे उत्तम रोखता सुगमता लाभांश वा व्याजही. कोठे गुंतविणे सुरक्षित असे नोंदीस कैसी वही. सन्मार्गे धनसंपदा मिळविणे अत्यंत आवश्यक. पैसा ध्येय नसे म्हणून जपणे जाणीव सामाजिक. ज्ञानाचा उपयोग गुंतवणुकी साठी सदा होऊ दे. हे सारे समजावया सुमती दे आम्हास तू शारदे.
So, good morning. Rockets going from one country to another country. God knows where they will land, but they will surely land on your portfolio. So, be careful because कुठे काही झालं म्हणजे कावळा बसावा आणि फांदी तुटावी तशी परिस्थिती सध्या भारताची आहे. सो यू हॅव टू बी व्हेरी केअरफुल. ओके, सो जोक्स अपार्ट. सो वी हॅव वन ऑफ द इट्स माय प्रिव्हिलेज टू इंट्रोड्यूस ढेरे सर who taught us in college. Huge experience, vast experience in the field of chartered accountancy. म्हणजे खरं ढेरे सरांचं वर्णन करायला माझी ऐपत नाही आणि लायकीही नाही, पण काय म्हणतं की ओळख करून द्यायला लागेल म्हणून सर खरंच म्हणजे खरंच माझी लायकी नाही तुमची ओळख करून द्यायची. तर काय झालं, आय कॅन सी लॉट ऑफ स्माइली फेसेस. ते स्माइली कारण हे पोर्टफोलिओसाठी नाही आहे. गव्हर्नमेंटने तारीख ऑर्डरली 15 सप्टेंबर, त्यामुळे लोक आता हा भरपूर वेळ आहे म्हणजे अजून काय बँकेतनं पैसे जाणार नाहीत गव्हर्नमेंटकडे, म्हणजे अजून 1.5 महिन्यात तरी जाणार नाही, थोडा डिले आहे. तर तसं नाही आहे, तर त्याचे डिटेल्स ढेरे सर तुम्हाला सांगतीलच. सो आय रिक्वेस्ट ध्रुव टू वेलकम ढेरे सर अँड थँक्यू ढेरे सर फॉर युअर टाईम ऑन संडे.
अरे फोटो वगैरे काढत सेबीला पाठवायला लागेल.
So without आणि सॉरी अक्षय sir also. Akshay, please. Akshay has been helping sir a lot. Sir, without further delay, I will hand over to you. एक मिनिट, प्रदीप काय ते मोबाईलचं
काय रे?
त्याला पण बोलू.
ओके.
The standard announcement, please keep your mobile switched off. आणि दुसरी गोष्ट, since I am also a chartered accountant, of course not as experienced as Mr. Dhere sir, but still 30 years is not a bad count. The good and bad aspect is that we have got more time to file our returns, and the bad aspect is that we will become more lazy. So going by my personal experience and to be in line with the two speakers today, utilize this additional time to give maximum detail at the earliest to your chartered accountant for filing the return. Thank you.
Before I hand over the mic to CA Ashok Dhere, two important things. Today's program is being held under the aegis of SEBI IPEF, and most importantly, so two things. One is we have CA Dhere as our speaker for the session, and 15th June is the last date for for your advance tax payment.
Good morning, everybody. So, income tax return filing. normally 15th June or normally second week of June, we hold this lecture because 31st July is normally the last date. Now this year last date is extended. So people are, as he said, bound to become lazy. But then there will be rush at the end in the month of September and October. Let's not bother about it and let's concentrate on our work, because whatever work is to be done can be done even now. Whatever things which I am going to tell you are not something new. That's first thing. But it is necessary that we repeat every year and we try to understand and keep a track of it every year. And although things are simple, we tend to forget it or we tend to ignore it. The first thing, which is not even in slides, is, do you know your login ID or password, income tax site? If yes, that is good. If not, you should ask from your chartered accountant. First of all, you must know that login ID and password is your personal property, and therefore you must have it. Mostly it is created by chartered accountants in their office. They use it, they give it to you only when it is necessary. But at times you will be in trouble if you do not find your chartered accountant at place. Or at times I have come across cases where chartered accountants are not willing to give login ID or password. This time Kale Sahib will be happy because I am criticizing myself. But yes, there are chartered accountants who feel rather reluctant to give login ID or password. You should give. As a chartered accountant, I have kept it as a practice in my office. Login ID and password whenever client asks, or even if he doesn't ask, we give it to him. Ask him to keep it ready with him. It is his property. We are using that property for our benefit. And that is forgotten many times. And at times, some chartered accountants do take some undue advantage of it. And for that, you must have your login ID and password with you. And now, yes, it will be with chartered accountant. It doesn't matter. But it should be with you. That's first thing. Now return filing. The frequently asked question is whether I should follow new regime or old regime. That's a question which everyone asks. And although statistics is there, so far as last year is concerned, 72% of the people opted for new regime. New regime is beneficial and all those things are known. Still every year people will definitely ask question. My answer is, by and large, new regime will be beneficial. But why do you bother if you do not have any business income? You always have a choice. At the end of the year, you compare when you make the computation, which one is beneficial to you, and then choose the one which is more beneficial. That's a way to do it. But then next question comes immediately. But then shall we invest in PPF or not? We have given donation. Can we get deduction for that donation or not? Now, the philosophy behind the old regime and the new regime is simple. In new regime, lower rates of tax and no deduction. That's the principle. And old regime, the tax rates are high, but the deductions are available. Now, whether deductions should be more or the rate should be high or should be less? That's an economic question. We need not debate about it because now it's a law and we have to follow it. But by and large, I would always believe that if you want to make an investment in public provident fund, you invest it without thinking that any deduction of it will be available to you. If it is available, fine. If it is not available, do you consider the investment in this public provident fund a worthwhile? I would still say that considering RBI bonds, Reserve Bank of India bonds, this investment in PPF may be beneficial because you get 7% and odd tax-free interest, whereas RBI bonds will be taxable interest. So that is the question, whether you want to do it or not. And in spite of knowing all these things, client psychology is more important. I have a person who says that I will not invest anything except in bank fixed deposits. Even today in 2025, he doesn't invest anything except in bank fixed deposits. He has opened a PPF account, but he will just pay nominal amount of 1,000 rupees in PPF, and to get that 1,50,000 benefit, he will invest in tax saving bank FDs. It is taxable, everything is known yet. Now this is psychology. Now you can't do anything about it, but if you have to decide which one is beneficial, then you will have to think of PPF as compared to RBI bonds and not PPF as a deduction available under section 80C. If it is available, fine. If it is not available, just forget about it. Similar is the case with your ATD claim. Now ATD claim, Mediclaim, why just as when we insure a car, even if there is no accident, we are required to pay the premium every year. So Mediclaim is a premium which you pay. Don't make the premium payment just because you are getting a deduction under section 80D. But then, right from 1960s, I will say, that we are very much obsessed with tax deduction, tax rebates, tax exemptions, because the rates were high and nobody was willing and nobody is still willing to pay the taxes. It hurts. Earlier it was too much. The rates were ranging up to 97.5%, and considering wealth tax and estate duty which was prevalent then, in the case of some Parsi gentlemen I have seen that their tax rate in a year used to be 105%. Income tax plus wealth tax. So if you have earned 100 rupees, you are going to pay 105 rupees. That's the case with some old Parsi gentlemen who are having old shares of Tatas and they are valued too much. But that was the case. As against that, we have now come to a stage where the rates appear to be reasonable, and therefore it is better to opt for a new regime, which is a default regime. It is that regime which you should follow and accordingly go ahead with it. That's psychology is something different. ATCCA was one another section which has some reference and some relevance during this year. Now, when ATCCA was introduced in the year sometime in 1988, I used to tell younger people, those who are in 30s or 40s and in service, don't invest in these ATCCA benefits, this 30,000 rupees, because it is okay, you get a deduction now, but when you withdraw, that entire amount becomes taxable. And you are young, your income will be rising. So if your income is rising, you will be paying tax on this amount when you withdraw at a higher rate. So it's not better. It's only if you are going to forget this amount till your retirement, and after retirement you are going to withdraw it, it is better. In spite of repeating this every year, clients would always, no, I'm getting deduction, no, 30,000 rupees, so I will invest. Now that CCA provision has now come to an end during this financial year. That's why we have to consider. There also, there is an injustice. But I don't think anybody can really go and file a writ petition in the High Court or Supreme Court on this matter. There are other matters which are pressing on political front, for which writ petitions are immediately filed. But this is not a matter. And what's the matter? If you withdraw NSS amount after 1st of October, that entire amount is free of tax in your hands. 1st of October. But if you have withdrawn that amount before 1st October up to 30th September, then that entire amount is taxable. I have one client who wanted money something urgently. So he withdrew NSS amount in the month of April itself, and that entire amount is taxable. Another one who withdrew the amount in the month of October, and in his hands that entire amount is tax-free. That in the same accounting year, same income is exempt at one place and fully taxable at another place. So find out if at all you have withdrawn NSS amount, then in that case you see to it whether it is taxable or non-taxable. There will be tax deduction at source in either case. Even if you have withdrawn the amount after 30th September, there will be tax deduction at source at 10%. But you file the return, claim this amount as exempt, and then that amount will be refunded. I feel that this is some injustice depending on the dates. But then nobody has thought of filing a writ petition on this matter. But that's NSS. Yeah. So rates I told you, option I told you, yes. The last point in this slide which I want to tell you is correct form. Now using a correct form has become absolutely necessary. Now all these forms are still not available fully on site. The last date is extended and it is made 15th of September, not for your benefit and my benefit. That date is extended because the income tax department is not ready with these forms, with the utility and with all other things. They want time. The company to which they have given the work, they want time, and that is why government is generous enough to give you extension up to 15th of September. Now the next question comes, if the date is extended up to 15th of September, people can pay self-assessment tax by 15th of September, or is it necessary for them to make the payment of tax before 31st of July? If the self-assessment tax, if it is not paid in time before the due date of filing the return, that 234 interest is chargeable. Now whether when you file the return on 15th of September, whether 2 months delayed interest under section 234A will be charged or it will not be charged. Notification in this respect, we expect it to be published. At the moment, what is mentioned is that the due date of submitting the return of income is 15th of September. If that is so, in my opinion, even if you make the payment of your essay tax on 15th of September and file the return, that 2 months interest should not be charged and will not be charged. But then you have to keep your fingers crossed. Let's wait for notifications, if any, and then we can take a further call. Up to 31st July, you certainly have time. Okay? Next slide, Gita. I'm going to give maximum time to Akshay because he is the main person who will show you how to go about it, travel in the return of income and an income tax side. Because as usual, this younger generation is better equipped to handle all these site issues. They are more equipped. In fact, I even asked my staff also in the office if there is any query on site. So they are better positioned, so I will give him more time. Now I will first tell you the 5 changes which are made in this income tax form this year, which you have to remember. Now, wider range of people can use form number 1. That's one change which is made. Earlier, if you had capital gains, you were required to use form number 2 only. But now you can use form number 1 even when there are capital gains, so long as those capital gains are less than 1,25,000. So if your capital gains are less than 1,25,000, that is coming within the exemption, then you can use form number 1. Choose the correct form for the return of income. Form number 2, for those of you who are not doing any business, form number 2 would normally be applicable, or if there is some business, form number 3. There are form number 4 and 5 for some other purposes which may not be necessary here to discuss. But form number 1 is also available even for those persons who are having capital gains which are up to exemption limit. Now the question comes, problems do not stop. I have my capital gains, short-term capital gains of 50,000 and long-term capital gains of 1 lakh. So my capital gains are 1,50,000, but my long-term capital gains are less than 1,25,000. So whether I should fill up form number 1 or whether I should fill up form number 2, there is no clarification on this issue as yet. We expect some clarification on this issue in small matters, but we'll have to wait for this. Another important issue which is there in this year's form is that you have to mention a section under which tax is deducted at source. TDS section has to be mentioned. TDS could be from rent, TDS could be from capital gains. For in the case of non-residents, tax is deducted at source when the sales are made. So in the case of non-residents also, there could be TDS. TDS from salary, etc., interest, dividend is known. But you must write the correct section. Now, a question will come in your mind. I have an income of 5,000 rupees by way of interest. Whether I show it under 194A or whether I show it under 194, the income figure doesn't change, so my tax liability doesn't change. But that will be wrong from this year. Although your total income will not change, your tax liability will not change. There will be mismatch in the TDS as per 26AS and your income tax return if the section is wrongly mentioned. Wrong mentioning of a section would then be a nightmare, because then you will get a notice for defective return, or you may get other consequences like not refund being fully paid. So that is why correct mentioning of the TDS section is necessary. Now capital gains rules, that everybody has known by now, that every year we used to prepare a statement of short-term capital gains and a statement of long-term capital gains. Now 2 statements were there. Now this year especially you will have to prepare 4 statements. Short-term capital gains before 23rd of September and short-term capital gains after 23rd of September. Because the rates are different. Before 23rd of July, the rate will be, so far as short term is concerned, 15%. After 23rd July, the rate will be 20%. And so far as long term is concerned, the rate will be 10% up to 23rd July. And after 23rd July, the rate will be 12.5%. So you will have to have 4 sections so far as capital gains are concerned. Yeah. Then you must be aware that up to last year, if your income is 50 lakhs rupees or more, then you were required to give asset liability statement as a part of your income tax return. That asset liability statement was compulsory, and there was a schedule to that return form, and as per that schedule, that asset liabilities were to be given. Many times people have a question which we have answered many times, that what value? You have to put the value, that is the purchase price, the cost price of the asset. You don't have to make any valuation about the market value. But only the cost price is to be mentioned. Now, so far as gold is concerned, what value should we put? Because we haven't purchased the gold. We have just got it from father, mother, or any relations, or from inheritance. In that case also, if you do not know what is the price, you can write the price as on 1/4/2001, no harm. But that's the thing so far as threshold is concerned, that threshold is stated to be increased from 50 lakhs to 1 crore. That is, if your income is more than 1 crore, then only you have to give the statement of assets and liabilities. Otherwise not. Up to last year that was 50 lakhs. However, this information I have gathered from a site on Google. I have also gathered it from there is a magazine, that Wealth, which comes every Monday. On that magazine, this limit is said to be increased from 50 lakhs to 1 lakhs. However, I have not come across any notification which makes that change. But in any case, this is something minor, but yes, just keep it in mind that notification may come, or it might have escaped my attention, but 50 lakhs is now 1 crore. So those of you who are having income above 1 crore, they only will be required to give the asset liability statement, otherwise not. And lastly, buyback, which used to be darling of the stock market people, that buyback amount received will be treated as your deemed dividend under section 222D. It will be shown in 26AS also, and it will have to be offered for taxation. Now, a lot of complications have been created by a well-known company like Tata Motors, and they have created huge complications, tax workings, and misunderstandings amongst many investors. Now, Tata Motors, there is no buyback, but there is only merger of those shares into Tata Motors shares. That ratio was there. So there is an element of capital gains and there is an element of deemed dividend in that. This difference will arise due to fraction, and that each person will have to work accordingly. Okay, so that is so far as buyback proceeds as deemed dividend. Next slide, दाखव. 12 वाजता बरोबर संपवतो, म्हणजे मग तुला 12:30 पर्यंत घेतो. नंतरचा पास पण घेईन. Yes. Now you are for the last 2 years aware that you have to make the comparison with AIS, TIS and Form 26AS. In fact, I would say that after 5 years, the job of filing the income tax return by a chartered accountant might be over and we people will become jobless. Because 90% of the income tax return form may come where the information will be duly filled in. Today also, even if you have got 5 savings bank account, each savings bank account interest is reflected separately in your AIS and TIS. So you can't escape anything. So that AIS and TIS, now this comparison is fine. But that comparison, however, poses a problem insofar as shares and mutual funds are concerned because of duplication of information. See, after all, you have to understand that AIS, TIS and 26AS are derivative products. Talking in terms of stock market language, they are derivative products. On the basis of information which is submitted by various authorities like NSDL, CDSL or various broking houses, the capital gains section is filled up. Now there, so far as mutual fund is concerned, I have found it and I have compared it that NSDL's one statement, the same information in bifurcated form is also given by KFin Technologies and CAMS. So you are many times under an impression, what is this? I don't have that much of a turnover. But then you have to ignore one or you have to try to match between the two. So that duplication is there, but it is easily possible for you to find out where the duplication is, avoid that duplication. It is still there in Form 26, AIS as well as in TIS. That's one thing. Second thing about this AIS and TIS is, there is always, they give you figure of capital gains. They give you figure of short-term gains as well as long-term gains. That AIS figures are immediately known and correct. You will always find there is a difference between your figures and their figures, even if there is no duplication. And that difference, you have to just ignore it. If the difference is, say, roughly 0.5% of the turnover, this is a practical approach. No need to, waste your time in finding out where the difference is. For example, I have purchased a mutual fund where the investment is 5 lakhs and I have redeemed it, say, for rupees 8 lakhs. So I will calculate it 3 lakhs rupees. So far as AIS is concerned, they will not take 5 lakhs, but they will take 4 lakhs 98,000 and odd. The difference is the commission or the expenses which the mutual fund house incurs for various payments, including the payments to financial advisors and things like that. So there will be difference because the department will calculate capital gains 499 and 8 lakhs. So even that 8 lakhs rupees will also be a problem because it may be actually 7 lakhs 98,000, some odd figure. That difference arises because of all these issues. Secondly, in shares also, there is a brokerage on sales and purchases. There is STT, that is Securities Transaction Tax, and there is GST on security. Now, many times when you are recording in your books of accounts, if you have purchased a particular share, say for rupees 5 lakhs rupees, then in that case you take the purchase price as 5 lakhs. The department will take it minusing STT, minusing GST from it, and then accordingly that figure and your figure will differ. And I actually worked out in every case the difference comes to something like 0.5%. In some case it comes to 0.4%, 0.5%. If that is the difference in turnover, I would suggest instead of trying to find out where the difference is and correcting your capital gains figure in each and every transaction, you can ignore it. They will also, when they compare, they don't bother about it. You give the correct figures and that's the end of it. Yeah, capital gains. Next. Yeah. This is a mistake once again which we had made even last year in our office and which we make, and that's why I just wanted to highlight it. There is a difference between exempt income and capital receipt. Exempt income, we normally say in the case of redevelopment of a society, I have received some redevelopment compensation from the builder. I treated it as that income is exempt, there is some sort of tribunal judgment. It's wrong, that it's not an income at all, it is exempt, it's not exempt income, but it is a capital receipt. If it is a capital receipt, then it is not to be shown in the income tax return. There is no specific column to show any capital receipts. Capital receipts could be on account of gift also. Say brother has given a gift to sister, or father has given a gift to son or daughter. Then in that case there is no place to show such receipts in the income tax return. In the income tax return, exempt income is the only one which is to be shown and under specific head. Say for example, if you are claiming gratuity is exempt, then you must use the proper section 1010. If you are taking HRA as an exemption, then that is under 1013A. If you are getting tax-free interest, then there is a specific section. So every exemption must be having a section which is to be mentioned. If it is not, then it would amount to a capital receipt. And in that case, what might happen is there could be a query from the income tax department later on. Now for that, you must have noting in your computation somewhere why there is a difference and why amount is treated as capital receipt, so that you don't have to borrow much. Yeah, next. HRA gratuity that I do. Next, yeah. These are the normal deductions from salary, HRA, etc., which is all known, exemptions. But salary income, you cannot file a return without Form 16. In the case of pensioners, Form 16 is not available from government department. In that case, I would suggest that they should pick up that figure from 26AS if there is TDS or from AIS, and that figure can be compared with your bank statement, and that you can put it. Some people have the energy to go to Accountant General Office and ask for Form 16. It's a cumbersome process. Practically, they are supposed to give. All other employers where there are working people, they issue Form 16. But in other cases, pensioners' cases, they don't. So that's a problem so far as salary is concerned. All these exemptions like gratuity, leave encashment, HRA are not available under new tax regime. So you have to just take the salary figure as it is. House property, next case, yeah. Residential status of the landlord, you must know, because that's a mistake I have found is committed by many people. Say for example, there are persons who are non-residents. They have flats over here in India. They are given power of attorney to their close relations over here. And they enter into an agreement and their flat is given on rental basis. Now when this flat, once you know that this flat, the landlord is a non-resident, whatever rent that you pay him, you have to deduct 31.2% as income tax. It's a heavy tax, but you have to do it if the person concerned is a non-resident. And that too, you have to deduct it every month. You can't, because no payment can be made to a non-resident without deduction of tax at source. And therefore, this is a mistake which I have found invariably made by many people. And later on what happens is, later on after 2 or 3 years, you get notices from the department and the notices to the tenant, because it is the obligation of tenant to deduct tax at source. Landlord will not be hurt at all. He has received the money, fine. It is the tenant who is having an obligation to deduct tax at source while paying the amount of rent. And the queries I have found invariably come 2 years or 3 years down the line. And the queries will be in the form of additional interest, penalty, as well as prosecution. All these 3 things start. And that's a care which one will have to take so far as house property income is concerned. Say for example, if your tenant is a non-resident, so landlord is a non-resident, you have to be careful. In any case, you have got to take that into account. Residential status of landlord, you may always argue that, well, I didn't know that my landlord is a non-resident. But then, if you know that the amount is being deposited in NRO account, it's very weak argument, but people can take that stand that I didn't know about it. But penalty and interest would always be there. At the most, you can avoid prosecution. Next, capital gains I told you. दुसरं काय आहे? Other sources, nothing. नाही पुढे reconciliation I told you. I just wanted to, although it is not in connection with return, but it is after the return, it's a communication from the department. Now, those of you who are not carrying on business and those of you who are senior citizens, normally their case is not taken up for scrutiny. So there is no question. And yet, your intimation under 143(1) which you get will be defective or there will be mismatch, and that correcting that mismatch take years to rectify it. That is why, to the extent possible, you will have to avoid this matter by having proper reconciliation. And this communication from the department would always be, your refund is adjusted against a demand of earlier years, which is again not a correct adjustment. So all these corrections, they are not with the income tax officer over here who is sitting. They are with central processing zone, and therefore it takes a lot of time to correct it. It takes years, that's our experience, and the demand mounts. So therefore, filing a correct return and responding correctly, that's the only thing that is in our hands. I think I have exhausted my time, and I will hand over the proceedings to Akshay completely.
Thank you. Hello. Good morning, everyone. Firstly, I would like to thank PV Bhagwat Investment Guidance Cell and Lokmanya Seva Sangha for giving me this opportunity. Of course, to be a part of the speaker with Ashok Dere sir is a huge task. You need to be at par. So, this is a small attempt from my side. I'll be taking through a few changes that have come in, and what are the additional requirements that will be required to be made from our side. So the first thing is extension of due date, as sir already informed. It was informed to us on the 27th of May that 15th of September will be the due date as against 31st of July. So a good amount of time that we have on hand. Basically, why is this extension given? As informed by the department, they have they made a lot of structural and content revisions, because of which they need time to modify the returns. Whereas in the official statement, they have told that since the TDS returns will be filed by 31st of May and people are expected to get the credits by 15th of June, so we are giving you time. So for that, I have prepared this chart, wherein for the last 5 years, these were the due dates, and in the last 3 years, there were no extensions given. Whereas the situation being same, so we were already getting the data 2 months after the end of the financial year, and yet there was no extension. We were the ones who paid interest on late payment and late filings. So this is a chart, except for COVID part, there was no extension that was given from the departmental side. the utilities, as sir informed, the utilities for ITRs are very much required by us, so that we understand what is the inputs that are to be required to be given from our side to the government. That Excel utility was made available only on 30th of May. So 2 months time after the end of the financial year, department has taken to prepare the Excel utilities. There is a small amendment over here. What they have done is only the licensed Microsoft Excel version 16 and later macros enabled will be able to access this Excel utility. So this is a system requirement from our side which we need to make. If our Excel is not a genuine Microsoft Excel, we won't be able to access the Excel utility of the department. The second part that we have on hand is the JSON utility. Now this JSON utility was made available only on 11th of June. So we have got like 4 days prior to this session, we were able to access the JSON utilities, based on which we were able to understand what are the details that are required to be given. There are also ITRs which are notified. I have already shared it with the secretaries. They will be sharing it, I believe, with the members. So what are the PDF formats of the utilities are very much essential for us, so that we are well aware what is required by the chartered accountant from your side. So at the end, if we come to a situation that we are on 14th of September and then the chartered accountant asks for one such particular requirement, you already have this particular link. You go on the link, you check the forms, what form is applicable to you, and accordingly what requirements are essential to fill up that ITR form rightly is for you to check on this ITR, this link. Now, who is required to file an ITR? Any person being a resident other than ordinary resident who holds a beneficial owner, who has as a beneficial owner has any asset located outside India, or who is a beneficiary of any asset which is located outside India, is required to file the income tax return. I have put in criteria based on which the income tax return will be required to be filed. So if the total income exceeds the maximum amount which is not chargeable to tax, the maximum amount which is not chargeable to income tax is not 7 lakh rupees. It is 2.5 lakh rupees for the old regime, 3 lakh rupees for the new regime. So if your income is exceeding that particular amount, you are required to file the return. Second part, if you are an owner of an immovable property or of a motor vehicle other than a two-wheeler, you are required to file the income tax return. Social status, if you have incurred expenditure on foreign travel, or if you are an holder of a credit card, you are supposed to file an income tax return. Many people, if you see in malls there or on metro stations, they are offering you credit cards, and you simply do the process, give OTP and take the credit cards. That makes you compulsorily to file the income tax return. So very vital point, many people are not aware. If you are a member of a club where the entrance fee is charged is more than 25,000 rupees, you are compulsorily required to file the income tax return. If you have deposits in excess of 1 crore rupees in your current account, or 50 lakh rupees or more in your savings account, not one or many. So it is like 50 lakhs limit hai, apan ikade 40 crore, ikade 40 crore, that is not that will not save you. So 50 lakhs in one or more savings account. If you have tax deducted at source or tax collected at source of rupees 25,000 or more, you are compulsorily required to file the income tax return. If you have incurred expenditure in excess of 2 lakhs for foreign travel or 1 lakh towards consumption of electricity, you are compulsorily required to file the income tax return. So this aspect I just wanted to highlight. Many times we think कि माझा income नहीं है, मी कशाला भरू. But if you have paid a light bill of more than 1 lakh rupees, it is mandatory on your part to file the income tax returns. So these are the areas where we generally may miss out. That is why I have taken up this slide. Now good question. कोणी नाही भरायचा. So who is not required to file a return? If you are a senior citizen over 75 years of age, you have only pension income, and the bank account that you have held is the only bank account in which you receive that pension, and that bank account gives you a saving bank interest, then you are not required to file the return. So government has given us a lot of leverage. You cannot file the return if you should be over 75. You should have only one bank account. you should have only pension account, income and saving bank interest from that particular bank account. So you can exempt yourself. Here also they have said that the bank should be a specified bank which should be notified by the central government, and the bank will calculate your pension, they will calculate your saving bank interest, and they will deduct TDS on your behalf. So this TDS deduction should also be taken care of by the bank, then you are exempt. As you are aware, for individuals and HUFs, mainly 1, 2, 3, 4, these are the ITRs that are required. I have given up a summary which ITR is applicable to which individual. So here you can see if you have income up to 50 lakh rupees and having income from so and so, the only addition in this particular part is long term capital gains under 112A. So if it is up to 1.2 lakh rupees, you can file ITR 1. Earlier you were not allowed to file ITR 1 because capital gains was there, you had to select ITR 2. But herein, because there was an exemption up to 1.2 lakhs, they have added this in ITR 1 requirement. So who cannot file ITR 1? These are the people who are not required to file who cannot use ITR 1. So you should not be a director, you should not have unlisted equity shares. I believe this will be shared, so people can have a look at it. ITR 2, individuals and HUFs who cannot file ITR 1 and also do not have any business income, they can go for ITR 2. ITR 3, you have business income and you are not eligible to file 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 and 4. So this is basically the residue form, the balance. If you are not under 1, not under 4, not under 2, you can go for ITR 3. ITR 4, many similarities between ITR 1 and ITR 4. Only part is here if you are having income from business and profession and you are offering that income under 44 AD, ADA or AE, then you can go for ITR 4. Again, the list wherein ITR 4 cannot be used by people. From the last financial year, new regime has become the default regime. However, as sir rightly said, ITR 1 and ITR 2, you have got the option to accept or opt in or opt out from the new regime directly in the form itself. For ITR 3 and 4, wherein you have business incomes, you can file form 10IEA and then select your required form. 10IEA is not to be filed for opting into the new tax regime because that is a default regime. So if you want to go for new regime, no requirement to file ITR form 10IEA. I have made a small comparison wherein the old tax regime and new tax regime part is concerned. So there the deductions are available. Here deductions under 80CCD2, 80CCH and 80JJAA are only allowed. There additional requirement has come in under 80C. You have to mention your policy number where on which you are claiming the deductions. For 80CCC, CCD1, CCD1B, you have to enter your PRAN number. For 80D, many of us have taken Mediclaim policies to claim the deductions, as deductions are rightly liked by all of us. You have to mention the name of the insurance company and the policy number. So they are making it difficult for us, or rather making us to opt for the new regime, so that we will say कि बाबा ये policy number मगर मला काय माहित नाही, new regime मध्ये जाऊया. That is easier. Again, higher rates of tax because you are allowed deductions. Interest on SOP is allowed. Maximum rebate is 12,500 and standard deduction for salary is 50,000 only. In the new regime, the standard deduction for salary has increased to 75,000, but for the old one it is kept at 50,000 itself. For the new regime, another point is deduction under 57(2)(a) family pension. It has increased from 15 to 25,000, and 80CCD2 deduction has also increased from 10 to 14%. I have given a summary of the tax rates for individuals. Basically what has happened is the old tax regime, there are 3 slides, 60, 62, 80 and above 80. If you look at the old regime up to 2.5 nil, here the 2.5 has become 3, 60 to 80, and for above 80 the 3 has become 5. Rest all remains the same. But if you look at the new regime, they have not given any benefits to the age. It remains the same. If you look at the right part, I am scrolling, but the right part remains the same. So what they have done is, you be of any age, for new regime the rates are same. Whatever benefits were offered under the old regime were for the age wise category, they are now not available. Changes under the income tax return. Chapter 6A detailed reporting is required, as I mentioned earlier, 80C, 80CCD, 82, 80D, whatever details. Detailed reporting under HRA 1013A. So if you are claiming 1013A exemptions from your salary, you have to fill in the detailed that are required by the income tax department. Reporting of section, which sir already said. One point I wanted to add over here is, you already have your 26AS in place. You have the sections in the 26AS. Those details are auto-populated in your JSON or the pre-filled utility. So if you are filing your return from the income tax portal, you are not required to select each and every section. So they will get auto-populated. A bit of a relief. 80CCA2 exemptions for withdrawals from NSS, as sir pointed out. The notification was issued on 29th of August. What they said was, the interest will be offered to you only up to 30th of September, and after 30th of September we won't be giving you any interest. Because of that part, the exemption is available from 1st of October. So as sir mentioned, exemption is available for the withdrawals from 1st April to 30th of September, no exemption, but you will be getting interest. From 1st of October the interest is stopped and the exemption is available. So that is the way they have played with it. Capital gains details. So earlier we used to do long term capital gain, short term. Now they have got two babies. One is the prior to 23rd July and second is after 31st July. Here also the same part. And the rates will also be changing considering the date of sale, transfer of the asset. Detailed reporting for claiming of interest on housing loans, they are also coming. And asset liability reporting, as sir rightly said, if your income is more than 1 crore, you are required to mention the assets and liabilities. Now these are the documents which I feel should be handy with you. Form 26AS, AIS and TIS will be taken from the department's site. But other documents like Form 16, interest certificates, bank summaries, documents claiming exemptions and capital gain breakups. I feel you should have all of this in hand before starting the income tax return process. It is not that when we start the process and then we are bank certificate alach nahi hai. And it is very much essential to take the bank certificate because we cannot entirely rely on the 26AS or AIS or TIS. What sir rightly said was there is a variation, but that variation is limited. So if our bank certificate is showing X amount, the department should not show something like X plus Y and Z. You should be having a comparative analysis, and if the difference is minor, I believe you should accept the department's figure and proceed further. You can access Form 26AS from this e-file income tax return view Form 26AS. It has the details of TDS, TCS and interest on FDs. AIS, TS will give you these details: dividend, interest on saving, interest on deposits, advance tax payments, self-assessment tax payment for the earlier years, details of sales of securities and mutual fund, purchase of deposits. If you are a business having a GSTN number, the GST turnover is also reflected over there. If you have made any outward foreign remittance wherein TCS has been deducted, then that also gets reflected over here. You can check the details of your savings bank account. Sometimes we have joint accounts and we do not know who is the first owner, first person. What happens is department also has the records, and many times it happens that one bank account is held by the husband and the wife, and the details of that interest are reflected in both the accounts, both the TIS. So you should be able to analyze and based on your decision, if you are showing the income from that particular bank account into the husband's name, you have an option to reject the same or give a feedback to the AIS stating that this has already been offered to tax under some other PAN, and then you can mention it over here. Interest on deposits, checks the banks who have given interest on deposits. Income from others, it so happens that someone has already deducted TDS, given an X amount in our name. We are not aware who that person is. Suppose 10,000 rupees, 1 lakh rupees is the payment, 10,000 rupees is the TDS deducted. We happily claim the TDS, but that 1 lakh never came into our account. So that should not be done. We should analyze who is the person who has mentioned our PAN in their TDS returns. If it is not reflecting in our bank account, if we are not aware, it is highly recommended that you report it to the government that this is not my particular transaction and I am not aware. So the source of the income from others other than banks is to be verified by us also. Securities, as sir rightly said, there is a variation, so match the sale proceeds with your broker. Purchase of time deposits, purchase of time deposits, there are two parts, gross amount received and gross amount paid. Many times it happens that we make a FD for 3 months, we renew it. We again make it for 45 days, we renew it. The AIS, it shows gross amount as well as the received amount as well as the paid amount. So if 1 lakh FD has been transferred 12 times in a year, it will say 12 lakh rupees. And your income is supposed to say 3 lakh rupees. It is not in comparative part, it shows a deflection, it shows a variation. How can a person who is earning 1 lakh making an FD of 12 lakh rupees? So you should be able to analyze 12 lakh is the same FD which has been repeated. Details to be checked on the portal. I'll just run you through this. Name, date of birth, this left side part cannot be edited, right one can be edited. If you have a valid passport, please select yes, mention the passport details on the ITR portal. These are the mobile number, email ID, very much important because communication from department has become very tech savvy and you get in messages and emails day in day out. Addresses, check whether your address mentioned on the portal is correct. You can also check whether the bank accounts mentioned on the portal are correct. They should be valid and eligible for refund. Otherwise what will happen is you will file the return, your return will be processed but you will not get the refund in your bank account. The reason is it is not eligible for refund. So it should be valid, it should also be eligible for refund. Intimation orders are also available on the portal. Make sure that you download the intimation orders for the last previous financial year so that if there is any interest that you have received, it is to be offered to tax from your side. So make sure that you have the intimation on your hand. And you will also always say की माझ्याकडे तर refund 5,000चा होता, मला 3,000 आले, मग कसला interest? But that is not the case. If you have received 3,000 rupees, that means some of the TDS which you have claimed is not reflecting on the portal. So they have rejected that TDS, calculated the amount excluding that TDS, suppose say 2,500, and given you a 500 rupees interest. So just because your refund was 5,000 and the department has given you 3,000 doesn't mean that there is no interest on that. Other points, e-verification, refund, reissue. I'll just show you through the portal. The feedback part which I already told you. So information is not fully correct. Income is not taxable. Information relates to other PAN for the husband and wife case or the joint accounts case. Information is duplicate. Many times it happens that A source has also reported and B source has also reported. So the income is reported twice. That should not be the case. So you should mention it that information is duplicate. And if the information is not relevant to you, you can clearly deny that information. This is a very important part. Make sure that all your 26 AS entries are verified by you. The last part of this particular slide I wanted to tell you was, after you have filed the return, last year you had the option to e-verify or discard. So suppose आपण return file केलं आणि नंतर लक्षात आलं अरे e-verification करायचं राहिलंय. We go to the site. By the time we log in, we remember अरे there was one particular income which we should have shown, but we have missed out on that part. You can discard that return. This option is also available. You can discard the return, you can file another return and then e-verify that. So this return will not be considered as return filed. It is not a defective return. It is not a proper return. It is cancelled. There is no record of this particular return because you have not e-verified it. So suppose say the chartered accountant has made a mistake and the client says that I do not want to e-verify, he can use this option. Now I will take you through the portal. Chrome, no? Since as I already told you, the forms were issued only on 11th of June. So I have not taken screenshots this time. I will be running you through the live website. This is the normal dashboard that we get to see. When we go on this e-file, this is where we get the form 26AS. So income tax returns, e-file, view form 26AS. The e-verify return where I told you the e-verification or discard part is here. You can get it through this part, e-verify return. intimations, which I told you, intimations for the last financial year. You can go for view file returns. You get the details. Here you have an option to download the intimations. Filing of income tax returns. Going for the file income tax return form part. If I click, I get the option to select the assessment here. I'll select the mode online. Here you have to select the status, individual, HUF or others. I need to select the ITR form. Only ITR 1 and ITR 4 are available as of now. I'll go for ITR 4. It will ask the why are you filing the return. So there are 3 options. You can select whatever is applicable to you. Going further, this is a screen where you need to select the income employment part. So if you are a pensioner, you need to select this, others pensioner. If you are a person receiving family pension, you need to select this part, not applicable, family pension, etc. This is very much essential because based on this, your exemptions will also be calculated. The section under which you have been filing the returns. The most important part, selection of option. So if I am filing ITR 4, that means I am having business income. So it will ask me, do you want to go for the old tax regime? So are you opting out of the new tax regime? I'll say no. If I say no, accordingly, all my further forms will be edited. If I say yes, it will ask, mention the date on which you have filed 10IEA, mention the acknowledgement number. So it is not that either yes lila mujhe dhala. You have to put in the correct acknowledgement number, the correct date of filing, then only it will proceed further. I'll show you the same screen for ITR 1. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. ITR 1 and 2 you are not required to. No, I am coming to ITR 1. This is ITR 1. Here, you don't have to file ITR 10IEA. One second. ITR 1, I'll just go to ITR 1. Here, if I select ITR 1, this part, in the personal information, this is the only thing that you need to fill. Do you wish to exercise the option under 115BA for opting out of new tax regime? By default, it is new. Old, no. So if it is no, that means your income tax shall be computed as per the new tax regime. So if you want to change to old, you need to select yes. That's all. No need to file any forms. So only no and yes. This is what you need to do over here. The bank details are mentioned. Make sure that it is validated and eligible for refund, as I told you. For the purpose of ATC, there are a few changes. So I'll go for ITR for the old tax scheme. Once I go to the old tax scheme, my ATC and ATD deductions get enabled. One point I would like to show it over here. See, if you look at this part, first part is confirmed. Only after the first part is confirmed, the second tab gets opened. So, if at all, if I had not selected anything over here, nature of employment, because I am not an employed person, this will not allow me to go further. And then it will show an error. Acha, this is the part where I have missed out. So make sure कि if you go and click on confirm, अरे मी तर सगळं भरलंय तरी पण पुढे का जात नाहीये. Go through the entire form again, entire schedule. Then you will get something like this in red. So make sure that you fill it correctly. Here I can also select others for the salary 1013A part that I wanted to show you. Under the salary income, you should click edit. For the HRA, one second. Old tax regime, one second. Old, okay. they have come up with a different tab altogether. Exempt allowance. I select exempt allowance as 1013A. As soon as I select 1013A, it is asking me to please fill schedule 1013A to claim HRA. What I did was I selected the exemption section. As soon as I selected the exemption section, this particular tab has popped up. Earlier it was not there. I'll just show you again. See, there is no particular tab for HRA. But as soon as I select exempt allowance, I go for add another, I select, there is no tab over here again. Going for 1013A, under 1013A, it is asking me to fill schedule, this has enabled. So as and when you select or deselect something, the tabs get enabled or disabled. Under 1013A, these are the things that you need to put in. What is the place of work, metro or non-metro? What is the actual HRA that you have received? What is the actual rent? Details of salary, basic salary, DA, actual, and it calculates what is the actual rent paid minus 10% of the salary, and it gives you the eligible exempt allowance on its own. This is a non-editable field. So what you have to do is you have to feed in the details, say 50,000, actual rent paid 60,000, sorry, and basic salary is say 1 lakh rupees, assuming dearness allowance 25,000. One second. Actual rent paid minus 10% of the salary. 10% of the salary. It will calculate. So I am not getting the figures right maybe. But what happens is, 50% of the salary is what? 5 lakh rupees. It will give you the exemption figure. So once you feed in the details, it is a GIGO basically. Whatever you feed in, based on that the report comes. And the exempt allowance amount is not to be selected by you, it is auto populated. So you don't have an option to write that particular figure. This is the change that has come in. Secondly, I would like to show deductions. Confirm. Under the deductions part, if you see ATC, earlier what you used to do is we used to write the amount, that's all. Now what happens is, this is not editable. This is a field that you need to put in. What is the eligible amount? 50,000 say, or 1,50,000 for PPF. They are asking for the policy number or document identification number. So if it is for a life insurance premium, you write the policy number. If it is for PPF, you write your bank account number. If it is for tax saving FD, you write the FD number. So this is the document number that they have been asking for under ATC. This was not there in the earlier part. Yeah. Then what you can do is this: 50,000 for one policy number 1, save. You will add another. And accordingly you can put in all the details. The maximum limit is 80 for ATC is 1,50,000. For ATCC pension fund, again you need to enter once you enter the amount, you need to enter the PRN number. Same is the case for ATCCD 1, contribution for the of the central government. This is allowed only for the central government employees. This gets activated only after you put an amount. So this field, if you see PRN number, it is disabled. As soon as you put an amount, this gets enabled. So they are asking for every minute details under the deductions. For 80D, I will show you because most of us go for it. Here, what are you claiming? Are you claiming for you or any of the family member who is a senior citizen? If I say yes, it will say you are not a senior citizen. So it has got a control check. So erroneously also, if you say yes, it will not allow you. So I go for no. Next. Not claiming for self. Sorry. You are not, please change your, okay, this is there. Whether for you, this is the insurance details. So if I am claiming for myself, name of the insurer. Most of the times we are unaware, अरे कोणीतरी policy काढली स्टार ची एक HDFC लाईफ ची माहित नाही. That should not be the case now. We should be aware with the policy insurance company, the policy number and the health insurance amount. This is for 80D. Same is the case for other deductions. 80E, if you have taken a loan, these are the details. Loan taken from, loan of the bank, loan account number, date of sanction of loan, everything. So you just cannot give amount the figures as is. You have to put in every minute details for all the deductions basically. That is why I said they have made old regime more difficult for us, so that we shift to the new one even after having benefits. These are all the deductions. For donations also they have come up with this particular chart. All the donations are to be mentioned according to the eligible limits. Rent paid. If certain people they don't claim HRA but they go for rent paid 80 GG deductions. Here also 10 BA form is to be filled and accordingly acknowledgement number is to be mentioned. Donation to political parties. Luckily they are not asking anything for the saving bank account. because they already have the details. Sorry? Political party they will definitely ask. Well, one last point, I'll just run through the section part under the TDS thing, sir. Sorry, I'm exceeding the time, but yeah, this is the screen which every one of us has to look into. So for the TDS part, you need to here. This is the section part which has come in. So whosoever has deducted your TDS, what is the section that particular pension person has mentioned is already auto-populated. So I have not put in this part. It is already auto-populated. The gross amount, I'll just show you one of it where you can edit it. I'll just show you this here. So who has deducted? What is the name? What is the section? What is the amount? Year of tax deduction you have to select. So it is already but obvious 24-25. What is the tax deducted? And one more part is here. I believe it was available earlier also, but many of us may not have gone through this. TDS credit out of 5. So it so happens in professionals case that the opposite party has deducted TDS, but they have not paid the amount to us. So they make TDS based on provisions. We as professionals follow the cash system of accounting. So we report the income on the basis of receipt that we have received from the client. So they have given us an option to carry forward this particular amount. So if I say out of 5,148, my current year's claim is only 2,000 rupees. Then they will ask for what is the balance. So is it carried forward or what? That is how it goes. So this particular part you make sure that it is actual in your case, because not everyone is allowed to go for cash system of accounting. But what I wanted to highlight was this particular part, the section under which TDS has been deducted. So if there are any other questions, you can go ahead, or there is this AIS part also. They have come up with a tab. It take you to a different site altogether. You select this AIS and you get the summary. You can select the financial year based on your requirements, and then going further, all the details are mentioned over here. One thing for the response. See, when you go for SFT, you have received dividend on so and so date, you have the option. This is the response or the feedback that I was talking about. This was an important part, feedback thing. So I believe this was all I could give. I hope I have met the requirements. Yeah, thank you.
So feedback, they immediately consider it.
What happens is, at least we have given the feedback. Based on that, if you say that it is not for my PAN, it is for, say, Mr. Manoj's PAN, it will go in his records. And then,
Finally, it will be good submit.
see, why they have given us this is, many a times it so happens ki are tithe hai, पण मी काय करू, मी कोणाला सांगू. So when you have given a feedback, they have something on record. So after 3 years, when the scrutiny comes, it is not कि अरे माहितच नहीं है कोणाचं है काय. So you had already given the response to them. If you say it is not yours, it is his, it will go in his AIS. Then he has to check whether it is particular for his AIS or for someone else's AIS. So many times it so happens that he again pushes it back to you. It may happen. So based on the final status of that particular feedback, department will take actions. That is how it goes.
So old regime and the new regime, before submitting the comparison can be done before finalizing.
Yeah, definitely.
Which will be the benefit?
based on the calculations, whichever is. Yes. See, for this, I guess there is an income tax estimator over here. See, income and tax estimator. This screen. You have to click over here. You have to put in the basic details, income details, and then it computes estimate tax. It gives you the comparison. कि old better है कि new better है. But then, as I said, for old, all the details, ATC, policy number, ते सगळं घेऊन बसा. If it is beneficial, then go for it.
But once you adopt for a new regime, you can't change it.
For 1 and 2, you have got an option. 1 and 2, you have got an option. Only for businesses, there is a restriction. For 5 years, you cannot change.
Earlier it was like that. Once you adopt for a new regime, you
Yeah.
can't change it.
Yeah, that is, even now, for 1 and 2, you have got an option to change it every year. For 1 and 2, that is not a problem. For businesses, that is a problem. That way.
Sir, you said some PDF file has come for IDEA 2 and 3.
Yeah, I've shared it already.
Okay. Are there any new items which you have asked for apparently on the?
I've already showed it on the portal itself, sir. These are the ones.
2 and 3, because these IDEA 1 and 4.
For 2 and 3, for 2 and 3, for capital gains, they have asked for the details.
That would be that.
The 23rd July part. 23rd July part. And
No new surprise. I'm just trying to understand.
sir, they have come 4 days back. So if there is any, I'll let you know. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Done. Yes.
26 days मध्ये notification आला की TDS clear करतात.
Hmm.
2 entry झाले.
Hmm.
मी 23 ला केलं होतं, मी flat तुमचा होता.
हाँ.
त्याच्यावर notification आले. AIS मध्ये report केलं, BVSS मध्ये report केलं, पण त्याची pending. They are showing interest, they are calculating like that. आणि मला interest लावला.
So what you ह्याच्यात ऑप्शन काय आहे ज्यांनी TDS रिटर्न भरलाय
आता पण clear केलं ते पण मी submit केलं.
then that particular person जोपर्यंत तो ज्यांनी TDS कट केलाय तो त्याचा 26Q रिवाइज करत नाही.
नाही, ते clear झालंय. तो AB form आला.
कुठला AB फॉर्म
26 AB काय त्या-
नाही there is 26Q form wherein you file the TDS returns.
आणि त्याच्यानंतर information आली आहे की माहिती जे आहे आपण
हां.
तेवढी एकदाच आलेली आहे.
हा मग
त्याच्यावर मी रिप्रेझेंट केलं.
हा
इन्कम टॅक्स वाली काय करते आहे.
नाही मग तुमचा 26 years मध्ये अजून पण 2 वेळा दिसतंय का
हो दिस
नाही then that means the party who has deducted a TDS has not done it correctly.
बरोबर आहे.
त्यांनी त्याची काहीतरी चूक आहे मग त्या पार्टीचा एरर आहे तो.
नाही, पण मला टॅक्स तुम्ही पार्टी चुकली.
See, you have taken the income from that particular person.
नाही, इन्कम मिळालीच नाही मला.
So he has not given you the income particularly. What you can do is you don't claim the TDS and you deny it under AIS and you deny it under AIS. No then.
नाही पण गेले ते पण इंटरेस्टला आता दर वर्षाला पेंड्याचं 1000 पेंड आता इंटरेस्ट
हाँ.
तो 1% तो चालूच आहे.
I think we can,
Technically, there is always this central processing zone is based on AIS. तुमचं म्हणणं कोणी
ऐकत नाही त्याला काय करायचं.
रिटर्न जोपर्यंत प्रॉपरली रिव्हाइज होत नाही TDS रिटर्न तोपर्यंत तुम्हाला कोणीही क्रेडिट देणार नाही. ती क्रेडिट अशीच राहते.
हो, पण आता तुम्ही आता इग्नोर करू की काय करू?
इग्नोर नका करू. तुम्ही जर TDS क्रेडिट केलेला नसला तर इग्नोर.
सिबिल क्लिअर येईल ना.
And you can always say की मी माझा इन्कम नाही मी TDS पण क्लेम नाही केला रिजेक्टेड
हा, ठीक आहे.
आणि डिनाय केलेलं आहे तुम्ही इन्कम
नाही
डिनाय डिनाय केलेलं आहे.
डिनाय केली.
That is the only part available. एवढंच आहे आता आपल्याकडे.
काय रिपिटिशनला काय वेळ लागेल एवढं.
Thank you.
समोरचा
भेटू पण शकत नाही काय पण
नाही जोपर्यंत जो समोरचा व्यक्ती आहे तो TDS रिटर्न रिवाइज करत नाही तोपर्यंत तुमच्याकडे काही त्याला way out नाही. Way out असते.
Thank you. I would like to sincerely thank CA Ashok Deve and CA Akshay Tambe for taking their time out, holding this session for us. Thank you so much.